Hi, and welcome to another episode of Kasper On BI. As you noticed, we're not in the usual setup at home. You've probably also noticed I haven't been posting for a while, so I'm trying something new. So today we're going to do Fabric Unplugged. And today we have a special occasion. We're doing it from FabCon Europe. So we are at the conference ourselves, and we're going to talk about where we are with Fabric today. So I brought someone with me, which you probably all know, Prathy, and yeah, maybe you can do a quick introduction.
Yeah, Prathy Kamasani. I work as a solution architect at Avanade UK, and I'm also one of the MVP. So I'm here at the conference as a speaker, as an MVP, as an attendee, and excited for this.
Yeah. So we'll see. So as I said, it's going to be unplugged. So we're going to talk about where we are and what things are happening. We're going to talk about the journey, all of these things that are happening. So let's get into it. So as we all know, I can't even believe it. It's not even been a year since Fabric has been released as GA product. We've seen a lot of things. We've seen a lot of things happen. So if you think about it, what are some of the things to highlight, some of the interesting tidbits that you have learned over the last year about Fabric?
I think the one thing which really stands out for me, just overall as a Fabric platform, how it just brings all the tools together into one platform. I think that's probably the biggest thing. Yeah, probably it's not a tidbit, but
Yeah.
it's the one thing which makes me really excited about Fabric. The tidbits, I don't actually know.
Well, I mean, to me too, the same thing is like, first of all, the one lake story, landing data into a single place, being able to use all the data for all the projects that you have, creating that data platform inside the lake, and not having it locked down behind a PaaS solution.
Yeah.
That is locked off. So
and also how quickly you could bring data into one lake. I think that's also a really great thing.
Yeah, and I think, and maybe the other big thing that really resonates with a lot of customers that I've seen is the fact that it's a SaaS platform, right? Even though this is also, like, we have to immediately talk about this, I think this is also what is probably the toughest part for people to understand. Like, this is not your traditional PaaS service.
Traditional data platform, which is locked down behind the things.
Not just the data platform, but like it's same like Azure Analysis Services. If you think about like Synapse, even if you think about like Databricks, there's a lot of different things that are built for data engineers, people who can building the data platforms, who are amazing at their jobs. But it's a single environment. And locking that down and doing things for that single environment is different than when you're doing it for a SaaS platform. Really, the goal is, right, your CFO sitting at the beach in Hawaii opens up his phone and he looks at the report that is looking at directly data that is coming from the lake into his report, and it's up to date every second or every minute. And that is what Fabric can bring you. And a lot of people are really excited about that vision. But everything that comes with it is what makes it tough for them to understand, and also the responsibilities and the things that they're having there. So that is the hardest part.
Yeah, how quickly you give the credit card, and then you could sign up, and without any infrastructure burden and everything, you could bring all your data and you could start utilizing it. So yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and I think this. But again, the biggest problem or the biggest challenge for a lot of organizations is self-SaaSification.
Yeah.
So thinking about things instead of, like, one of the biggest discussions we see a lot with customers is like, oh, we need to lock it down behind private networks. And yeah, then I ask the same question to them often, like, hey, if you lock it down behind a private network, what about your office? Yeah. What about your...
There's somebody working somewhere and want to see the data.
Yeah, what about your dynamics? So it's really a different way of thinking. It's the same security, but done in a different way. Like with Azure AAD conditional access, you can do the same thing. You can say, And actually, in some of my sessions that I'm doing, I'm saying the same things, right? Because like today people put their past solutions into a private network, into a VNet, and then to be able to connect to it, you have to go with VPN and install on your machine and connect to it and all these things. But this is what they say, that's the traditional security. If you're in, you're in. So it's a different level of security. So what, for example, you can do with AD conditional access, you can say like, oh, you bring your own device. But if you want to connect with your device to Fabric, you can put rules in place. You can say like, hey, if you want to connect to Fabric, you have to do it on a work device. You can't just use your username and password and log in and just log it and just use it. That doesn't work. So instead, you secure the device, you connect to Fabric, you know the device is secure. You know they use two-factor authentication to log in. You know they have the latest patches installed on your machine. So instead of relying on if VPN is being installed on someone's machine.
It's like you're saying like it's like M365, like your email and
Yeah.
everything. Like you, wherever you are using your M365, and not only M365, other applications by using the same Enter ID, because you know the device is secure. I could access my email or the files that comes with the email. So it's similar thing like SaaS.
Yeah. So I think that, and I honestly believe that it's going to take some time for people to realize and to really understand, and also to be able to be happy with that. So
it's a change. Change is not easy.
It's a pretty big change. Yeah, because we've been doing the same way. Like when we were on-prem, we were doing it a certain way.
And then we went to cloud. That was different.
Yeah, we went to PaaS
as well. Yeah.
Which is kind of like on-prem, but then in the cloud.
Yeah.
We were running it, and now we're going to SaaS, which is completely different. So I think that's something that we're seeing. If you're more interested in this, if you, for example, especially around the security space, there's a security overview page on the Fabric page. I'll put the link in the description below. There's a white paper, but I would recommend you going to the Fabric overview page, because the white paper sometimes gets out of date because we release so much information.
Constant changing.
Constant changing. This week, again, I'm pretty sure lots of changes will come.
Yeah, we're going to do another.
We're going to do another one to talk about that. But yeah, so, and then maybe to a little bit tag on the security piece. So let's talk about like one security, like universal security. Universal security. The one we call one security.
Yeah.
And I think this is where a lot of people get like frustrated and say, okay, Fabric is not ready and we're not there yet. And because they understand, or they've heard from us like, oh, you're going to ship one security at one point. But one security is something that is a longer term roadmap vision.
Yeah. But I mean, I think as soon as you tell people, or the people who are spent a bit of time to understand what various types of security levels available within the Fabric, like, if you look at it now, I'm sure there might be a lot more features coming now. But like we already have workspace level security. We already have item level security. You could go to
row level security.
Yeah, row level security. And we could even go the folder level security within the Lakehouse. And you could do security from the SQL endpoint view. So there is a lot of security available. I like calling it user access control. It's like you could control user access to the data at so many levels. But I think it is understanding it, knowing way to do it. And also it has to be very much like a persona based. And like if you're coming as an analyst, or if you're coming as a developer, then based on that persona, you could control the user access at various levels. So for me, I think it's there. And I see clients who are already utilizing it very well.
Yeah. So again, that's another one of the things that we're seeing. That message has started to shift from, oh, one security, it's not there, to us. And to be honest, that's a lot to blame on us, as Fabric team, us giving you the wrong message and talking about the wrong things. So hopefully, even in the last FabricCon, we started putting this message like, hey, like we made a mistake. Like the security is already there, right?
Yeah.
We focused a lot on one security, which will be really amazing once it's there. Because
it's fascinating. Like I think once it's there, the control, actually, you don't have to do it because it's kind of carries from one level to the, through the data life cycle, it kind of carries from one level to the other level, right? So, but again, I think, going back to our SaaS change, sometimes I feel like maybe this whole universal security or one security is, it's not there for a reason. It's good because that's a massive change if everything is controlled by platform itself. So maybe in a way, I'm being very positive here.
Yeah. Nice try.
Yeah.
So let's talk more about, because I think some of the things that probably you and I both have found out is how amazing cool notebooks are.
Oh, I love notebooks. It's my current.
I feel like a little bit I'm cheating because the traditional, this is not very traditional. Like, I grew up DTS packages, SSIS packages, like data flows. So that's how I would do data transformations. But when I started with Fabric, I started to do some notebooks, and it's really cool. Of course, I'm a developer at heart, so I love writing code. So that is really cool, and that's something that I really want to do. So yeah, I really started loving notebooks.
Yeah. But it's just for me, I mean, don't get me wrong, I love Power Query, I love data flows and things. But however, as you said, developer in heart, I've done a lot of SQL, I've wrote a lot of store procedures and SSIS. But I think notebooks brings back that enterprise level, error handling, debugging, those kind of functionalities back. So it's not, when you're doing the data integration in Power Query, if you could still do the error handling, debugging, but it need a bit further steps. But in the notebooks, inline coding, inline stuff.
But I think it's probably also, like you said earlier before, about the different use cases. Like notebooks is really, you're not going to ask someone in your business
go and do
write
the
notebooks.
But I wouldn't mind creating a notebook, display the data like a story. Okay, this is where we started, and this is how the data has changed, and display it and share that notebook as a viewer to somebody, so they could go and see all the analytics.
Sure, but they wouldn't create a notebook. So there's still, first of all, you would call the notebook through pipelines to orchestrate multiple different notebooks in your environment. But I think the reason why it resonates to both of us is because we are tech geeks, right? We love writing DAX, writing SQL, writing code, and seeing the inner details. The Power Query is just easy. It's very easy. If you want to do some quick things.
It's also low code Power Query.
Exactly. Yeah, so it's quick and easy. But yeah, I really like notebooks, and I know you love your notebooks. Yeah, if you want some relaxing time, you're gonna go.
Yeah, that's what I like. It's I'm gonna spend some time with my notebooks. It's new and it works. It's quite nice. It's hard to explain, and also I love the functionality. How you could get, you don't have to write everything. You could bring so many libraries and modules in it and then do it. I still remember, and I love the Copilot integration, which it's because I still remember when I came to know Copilot integration the very first time. I was pinging Kasper saying now I could write Python because there is Copilot. So it's great. I think many people are scared of notebooks. I was scared when it just came out, but with a bit of Copilot, it is quite easy to be able to understand. It's not much different to Power Query, especially if somebody is coming from Power BI world. It's similar things. You have a data source and data destination. The transformations, I think the thinking is still same. You will pretty much do the same steps, but a tiny bit different way.
I think for people who understand code, who understand, it's not that far-fetched. And as you said, I also learned it by using Copilot.
Yeah.
Hey, I have this SQL query here. How do I do this in the notebook?
And you could just, if you don't even have to do that, you could write SQL.
Yeah, you can write SQL in there too.
Yeah.
Not really for transformations, but you can do the selection statements and where clauses and filtering, and then you get the data in your notebook and you do stuff with it.
Yeah.
So it's really cool. I really like it. So yeah,
I think notebooks is probably the unified data platform is one thing. OneLake is next big thing, and notebooks is. I mean, it's not new. Notebooks has been there in the past world for like a very long time, but
I mean, even those are obviously already there in Synapse.
yeah, exactly. So it's not a new thing, but I think because I haven't used notebooks.
Well, it's because it's easy. It's there right for you. It's SaaS, right? So you don't have to spin up any clusters. You don't have to do anything. It's there.
See, in my notebook session, I always said is like a, so when you look for notebook, what are the notebooks? It's always says it's a tool designed for data engineers or data scientists and everything. But I think what Fabric platform gives you, it's like it's not only designed for data engineer or data scientist, it is basically designed for data professional.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry about all the creating a cluster or getting a subscription, resource groups, and all that stuff. The notebook is just there. You could go and you could start utilizing now. You don't have to worry about all the other infrastructure setup. So I think that Fabric bought notebooks closer to me. Yeah. They were there before, but it was not.
Well, that close. And also the data is there.
And the data is there. That's very true. Actually,
so that's another important topic, right? If you have access to the data, you can write a notebook on it, and that's really important.
Yeah.
So maybe let's keep on talking about notebooks, because I know there is another tool related to notebooks that we both like a lot too, Semantic Link. But again, we're biased because we are analysis services, SQL Server, Power BI people. So Semantic Link is obviously biased because, I mean, maybe you can explain quickly what Semantic Link is? Semantic
Link is it's basically, it uses the Fabric REST API. It's a library only available only in Fabric. I think it's behind the screen, it uses the Fabric REST API. And it's basically, instead of doing all the callings and everything by using Fabric API, you could just install the Semantic Link library in your notebook and start doing many things. I think it's created for data machine learning, like a data science elements but I love using it for everything else.
I think originally it was built for like the scenario that we had in mind when it was created is you're a data analyst and you want to look at data that is sitting in an already existing data set, including the measures. So I want to see sales with the measure that is defined in the data set or in semantic model, and then by customers over a particular year, and then you can do machine learning or whatever you want to do in the notebook on it. But then we figured out, like, oh, this is pretty cool. Some people in the team, like Michael Kowalski and a bunch of other people in the team, started to figure out, oh, actually, we can do a lot of things in here.
Yeah.
So now, with Semantic Link Labs, for example, you can connect to the entire Tableau object model.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
You could do the migrations from existing Power BI models or analysis services models into Fabric. I think that's a fantastic use case. And you could do the inventory of your tenant.
Yeah.
You could go and see what's happening in your workspace. What's you could go all the way to the column level. You could run Vertipack analyzer, figure out which column is taking how much space, what is the partition size.
So again, all the things that you used to need built externally, like you use REST APIs to retrieve the data, then you would write some code and use Tableau Editor or you use any other third-party tools. Now you can do the same things running directly inside of a notebook, which is really cool. And then, as you said, like you can go across all the workspaces that are there.
Yeah. And another important thing is, like, I've seen certain clients where they don't like some third-party installations, like, the tools. It's not that they don't like it. It involves a lot of process.
Yeah.
But in this case, like me as a developer, I have a problem with the asemantic model. I want to understand what's happening. Now I could just use the Semantic Link and I could use the Semantic Labs, could spin up a notebook and understand what's happening in my model without actually installing any third-party tools on my machines.
Yeah.
Which is great.
Yeah. So Semantic Link, that's, if you don't know about it,
Oh yeah,
Go
go and
look it
check it
up.
out.
Even if you like, let's say you have an organization where you just do Power BI today, you haven't convinced your leadership team or whoever else needs to be convinced that you want to use Fabric for some of the other scenarios. Like, just spin up an FSQ temporarily for your IT team, play with it, but just use it to manage and control your Power BI environment. Like, instead of having to rely on third-party tools.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
And because you can make it as crazy as you want. You can write a notebook that scans the workspaces or the new workspaces and then run best practice analyzer, and then at the end send an email to the person who wrote it saying, hey person, probably you should not turn on the auto date time functionality because you have 50 date tables in your model, which explodes it to I don't know how much. And then the refresh takes up half the capacity. So
yeah.
and then maybe the other thing that we need to talk about is Direct Lake.
Yeah.
Because that is also, like, first of all, the thing that I want to talk about here is, and maybe that sometimes doesn't come across that great when you see keynotes from Microsoft and things, like you don't have to go move to Direct Lake. Like, when you have an existing Power BI solution, you can keep using the existing Power BI solution. In the end, it is the same.
Yeah. I mean, if you have a solution which is performing the way you want it to be performing.
I mean, so there's no change, no difference in performance. Like, Direct Lake is exactly the same. The only difference is how you load in the data. When you do Direct Lake, the data is loaded into, the name suggested, loads directly into the lake, and then it immediately becomes available for your reports. So that's really cool, but it doesn't change how fast the reports load or how quickly it shows.
But you could omit a step of processing the
now
model.
This becomes interesting. Exactly. Yeah. So if you need quick updates, if you already have your data sitting in the lake, like today you're paying twice. You're paying for data that is being stored, for the
data ingestion and then data processing.
And then you load it again into the model. You're paying for that. Is also costing you CPU. So you don't have to do that because that happens on the fly. So that whole processing step is gone. Which is really cool, and opens up a lot of scenarios and a lot of use cases. We're definitely seeing a lot of customers who are very interested in this, and also finding a lot of interesting use cases for it. So
it's also your data. You could connect your data a bit quicker.
Yeah.
Depending upon how long your data processing takes, but it's one step taken out. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and then the other thing that maybe, like we were talking about getting data in. So there's a few things here. One of the coolest features that a lot of people also don't really know about yet, but there are a lot of people getting excited, is mirroring.
Oh yeah, and it's free mostly.
Yeah, so mirroring means that you have, let's say you have a SQL Server database, or you can just say like mirror this data into Fabric, and then all the tables and all the data will be represented in one lake. And it will automatically be synced, so you don't have to do anything, it just automatically syncs. And all that data that is being stored in one lake is free.
Yeah.
So that is pretty cool. And of course, it's a way for us to want to get your data into Fabric, because once you have data in Fabric, like, this is the bronze layer, right?
Yeah. But it's also like, imagine previously to do this landing zone, it's, again, I'm going back to the same thing. It's like you needed infrastructure. You need to create all those pipelines, irrespective of how amazing patterns that you had, metadata-rich patterns and things. But still, it needed development power. It needed like a subscriptions. You had to pay for it and all those things. But now with the mirroring, you are bringing the data. You're creating that landing zone with a click away, and it automatically syncs. So I think I was like, when I first heard mirroring, it was really, really good. Yeah. And I see many clients are very interested about not only mirroring, many of these data virtualization techniques that Fabric supports, how quickly you could ingest data into Fabric.
Of course, there's a limited set of data sources that is supported in mirroring. But as usual, like for everyone who's been on this journey with me with Power BI for a long time, more will be added. Yeah. Maybe this week. I actually don't know if more things are going to get announced or not, but so we'll see. But I definitely know the team is working hard on adding more and more data sources. So that would be really cool.
Yeah.
Now, the other thing that is also very interesting and that caused a lot of problems and questions early on is like, hey, we want to connect the data that is sitting behind a VNet.
Yes.
So you have your already existing environment set up in Azure. It's sitting behind a VNet, but I want that data to be connected to in Fabric, but I can't. So how do I do this? Now, luckily, we finally shipped this GA called Workspace Identities. And this allows you to create an identity in Azure that is a trusted identity between Fabric and that Azure service. So you can say, this workspace, I'm creating an identity, I grant that identity access in Azure. From that moment on, you can just shortcut that data directly into Fabric.
Many people were excited about it.
Yeah.
And it was your favorite topic too.
It's my favorite topic too. And again, a lot of people are like, again, this is another conversation that we've had with a lot of customers, because it is different than how you would do it in the past. If you want to talk to data that is sitting inside of a VNet, you put your processing, your Spark or your Synapse or your Databricks into the same VNet as where your data is. But that's not the way it works with Fabric, because as soon as you put your whole Fabric tenant inside of the same VNet, your CFO sitting on the beach
in Hawaii
all of a sudden cannot look at this data anymore.
Yeah.
Unless you ask him to connect with the VPN and install it and have barriers. So that's not going to work. And many organizations say, well, we want both worlds, but this is why this whole zero trust SaaS architecture is invented. And again, this is a completely different story. So that's really cool. Workspace identities. Even now, there's a lot of requests from people that says, hey, we want to be able to run data in an unsupervised account. And I wanted to be able to connect to SQL. I wanted to be able to connect to data and using pipelines. So now workspace identities are also supported in pipelines. So you can actually connect from that pipeline to a SQL Azure database and get the data in, but it's not running on my account.
So what is unsupervised? Is it like a service principal?
Like so what happens is, it under the covers, the workspace identities actually creates a managed identity in Azure. Mm-hmm. So unsupervised means I can run it at night.
Right. Okay.
Without it being my account.
Okay.
Like it's not running as Kasper, it's running as the workspace. Mm-hmm. And you've given the workspace access. So that's really cool. And again, more's coming. Maybe later this week, we can talk about a bit more things. Mm-hmm. But that's really cool. And then maybe the other thing in this area is VNet data gateways.
Yes. Yeah. Another probably most talked subject.
I mean, that's another thing that a lot of people want, right? So today, if you want to get the data that is like even today, and the VNet data gateways won't solve this particular problem, but mm-hmm. if you have data sitting inside of a secure network, the easiest way and the best way to get it out is just to get a VM in that same network. It could be AWS. Mm-hmm. Install it in AWS, get the gateway in there, install a gateway, and now you can connect to Fabric. But the VNet data gateway allows, it's hosted by us, so you don't have to run a VM yourself.
Okay.
So the VNet data gateway takes care of that for you, but it doesn't support all data sources, obviously, because we can't spin up a VM in AWS for you. That's not possible. But yeah, VNet database is very cool too.
Yeah.
So
what else?
Again, so maybe the other thing that we need to talk about is a conversation we're having with a lot of customers, and also with a lot of you probably who are consultants, who are MVPs, or people who are actually doing the work. In Power BI, the situation was a bit different, because there, when you switched to Power BI, you wanted to migrate your whole platform. Mm-hmm. Like you wanted to go all at once, move Tableau to Power BI or
business objects to Power BI, but you were like you're making your analytical platform
a full-blown migration.
Yeah.
And I think that's a bit different right now where we are with Fabric, because first of all, the internal discussions with organizations like IT, hey, we want to run Fabric. Okay, then we have all these questions before we go there. Okay, maybe we can start with a simpler project. So it's a bit more nuanced. So instead of saying, okay, we're going to just move our entire data estate immediately to Fabric, a lot of people are saying, okay, let's see what makes sense for us, because we already have an existing data platform, and moving that data platform over, even though we see the benefits, we love the vision, we love the one lake, we love the easy access to it, it's going to be a lot of work.
Of course, yeah. But I see many clients are doing POCs, and after a successful POC, they are like, the next project they are trying to do in Fabric. But there are quite a few things factoring into it. Is most of the times is like these are the clients who already have Power BI, and there could be the clients who already have Premium, which means you already have Fabric and all the functionality that comes with it. So why don't we use it? And also, as you said, the vision, where it's going, and everything else as well. So, but I also feel like that's a very good way to do it. You do a POC, check does the platform work for you, and then do the
and maybe some of the features that they are needing for that particular project or particular data platform that they want to roll out. Like, many organizations don't have one data platform. They have many data platforms with all different
architectures.
Well, I mean, it's not necessarily fragmented, but I think, and because at one point they all tied in together, but they all have different needs and different restrictions and different security needed, and in each country. So that's why we see, like, it's a bit different than IT needs to be convinced, the PaaS versus SaaS discussion, the whole security discussion. So it is, customers are just looking into, okay, how does it all fit together? The vision goes really amazing. Everyone loves the vision. And then the other thing is what we see is customers starting on these projects like, okay, we already have data sitting in ADLS. Let's unlock that directly with Fabric. Let's use Direct Lake on top of that data directly.
Or just shortcut that data into Fabric and start exploring the data quickly. Instead of doing the whole process of creating the pipelines and adding the extra steps to it, you can just create the shortcut and start actually utilizing the data, then let it just sit in some storage.
So we'll see. I think it's a pretty exciting time. A lot have happened in those 6 months already. This week we'll have a lot of cool new features ship. We'll talk about that in the next episode. I hope you guys found this a bit useful, use of your time. We're hoping to have some of these discussions, and now we've talked about, because we haven't done it for a while, about some of the new features that have shipped, but we'll see what we're going to talk about. It's called Unplugged for a reason. Also, leave a comment in the comments.
Let us know what you think.
Let us know what you want to hear. What we want to talk about. And also, we can add more people to the mix too. We can have more people in here. And so that'll be fun. All right. Well, with that, so thank you for your time, and stay tuned for the next episode. Thank you.